Is it wrong to talk to those who have passed? I can't think of a single reason that would make that wrong. In my experience, it is all about healing, comfort, connection, sharing messages that have not been shared yet. Not only is it not wrong, it is highly beneficial and healing and comforting. And that's why mediumship exists.
Welcome, everyone, to Caritas Consciousness Project. I'm Gloria Coelho, and Caritas is dedicated to promoting the evolution of consciousness as the key to individual growth and global healing. And one of the ways we do that is we have speaker events where there's either a lecture or an interview. In this case tonight, it's an interview. And we have, I think, over 150 video recordings on our YouTube channel, Caritas Consciousness Project, and also on our website, Caritas Center at msn.com. I'm sorry, that's the email, caritascenter.org, www. We also are a nonprofit organization, and we rely on the support of our members and donors to keep it going. So to support our program, you can make a donation or you can become a member with benefits on our website. And tonight I'm so elated to present Suzanne Gieseman. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. Spiritual teacher and medium, Suzanne Gieseman, knows how to live in a left brain world. As a Navy commander and aide to the head of the U.S. military on 9/11, she was unaware of anything beyond this earthly realm. The death of her pregnant stepdaughter by lightning strike catapulted Suzanne on a journey that led to the unexpected gift of evidence-based communication with non-physical consciousness. Known for her joyful down-to-earth style and making deep spiritual concepts easy to understand, Suzanne laces her teaching with evidence-filled stories of the greater reality and practical tools that provide proof of our multidimensional nature. She's authored numerous books, and we're going to be discussing this one here, Always Connected, which I really loved. I really enjoyed reading it. Did a lot of the exercises because it was so fun to do. She produces, I'm going to backtrack a little. She's authored numerous books and 6 best-selling hemisync recordings, and her YouTube videos teach millions of viewers. She produces the Awakened Way app with daily inspirational messages and hosts the top-ranking Awakened Way podcast. She leads classes, workshops, and retreats in person and online to help people make the shift to a divinely guided life. And her website is SuzanneGieseman.com. So welcome, Suzanne. Thank you so much for electing to be here with us this evening.
Thank you, Gloria. I can't take credit for it. I get a lot of requests to speak, and it's very simple. You just tune in and say, okay, guides, do we do this one? And up check.
Well, then I'll thank your guides as well, because I'm very excited to have you on. And as I said, I really enjoyed this book. So it has, it's more than just a story. It's more than just Suzanne's story. It's also a how-to book on connecting with spirit, connecting with loved ones on the other side, and connecting with our deeper self as well. So let's begin with, for the ones who are not as familiar with your story, how you became interested in spirit, your earlier life, and it was grounded in a very disciplined analytical world. You were a Navy commander and aide to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. What had to change before
Everything.
you could even entertain the possibility that consciousness might extend beyond the physical world?
My worldview had to change. My belief system had to change. I also needed to have the personal experience that there is a greater reality. For those of you who know my story, I'm just trying to tell this in somewhat of a fresh way because you probably heard it before. But this is the key for all of us. I'm going to be sharing with you a lot this evening, but the personal experience is the key to anybody's spiritual awakening and continuing your personal path. And that's why I like to put practical exercises in my books, because this is not just reading about somebody that got to do something special. It's that we're all special. We all have these gifts, these abilities, and we're meant to develop them in our own unique ways. But we may not know that till we have what's called a wake-up call. And so I was going along just suffering like most humans do with the normal dramas and traumas of life, not terrible suffering. From doing readings for thousands of people now, I've really learned how much trauma a lot of people go through. I know that we all have trauma in our background. It's part of being human. But I was raised in a pretty normal family, not a little dysfunction, but not like some other stories I've heard. I mean, yeah, we don't need to get into that, but I learned to suppress any feeling that wasn't happy and pleasant, thanks to my mother. We were not allowed to be sick. We were not allowed to be sad or angry. So I was pretty cut off from anything beyond the story of Suzanne. And I feel a lot of us just feel that this life you're living is all there is. And I felt that way. I thought there might be an afterlife, but I didn't look into it at all. I didn't have a need to look into it. I was raised with no religion, no spiritual background whatsoever. There was no Bible in our house growing up, no Torah, nothing at all. We didn't talk about religion. It was somehow communicated to us that that was taboo. I feel my mother's side of the family had a bunch of people who were converted to Christianity, and you would call them born again. So they were proselytizing, and that made my mother even more hands off about religion. And I picked up that message from her nice and clearly. So 9/11 came along. I was up close and personal there in the last aircraft in U.S. airspace, and had to deal with that trauma of being in the Pentagon and seeing body bags and seeing the Army come to carry people out, having my building on fire. I dealt with that the way I was trained in the Navy, to just be tough, don't show your emotions. So my mother's training served me well in the military. So I ran away from life after I retired from the Navy. I went sailing with my husband for several years. But life caught up to me with my most major wake-up call, like you said in the bio, when my stepdaughter Susan was killed. And I had no idea how to deal with that. And I couldn't cry in front of my husband. So I went off on my own and wailed and railed at a God that I didn't know if a God even existed. So what do I do with all that emotion? Until I saw Susan's body and had an epiphany. That was my wake-up call, when I saw her lifeless body and said, wow, the spark in her is gone. It's not just a lifeless body. There is something that gives us that spark. And by what at the time I thought was coincidence, I had found a book 6 weeks earlier on mediumship, and I read it and threw it out because I thought it was ridiculous. But that was enough to plant a seed for me that said, what if there is an afterlife? And what if there are people who might be able to show us with evidence that Susan is still here? And if that's so, I'm going to do two things: find a medium and connect with her myself. That was 2006. And I began meditating that week, saying, Susan, show yourself to me. And I knew I wasn't going to stop till she did. And when she finally did, I didn't stop trying to connect across the veil, because by that time, all of that time spent in an expanded state of consciousness had opened me up to this greater reality, that personal experience that's available to all of us.
So the medium you went to, was that an evidential medium also?
Yes, I met her. I met her in a class taught by Anne Gaiman, a wonderful medium who I wrote about in my book, The Priest and the Medium. You want a good spiritual love story, read The Priest and the Medium. It's still in print through Hay House. I wrote that biography of Anne after my reading with a medium, because I needed to tell people mediumship is real. How can I write that in a book? And so I wrote Anne's biography. She was one of the mediums I'd heard about in a book I picked up after Susan's funeral about the afterlife. And I thought, I want to read him with this woman, because I can believe that she's the real deal. I didn't want to see anybody who wasn't credible. But turns out, you'll love this, Gloria, Anne Gaiman lived 5 miles from where we were. We returned from cruising on our boat after Susan's funeral, went back to a property my husband had owned before, and Anne Gaiman lived 5 miles from there. So she was not doing readings. I would have given anything to have a reading with her, but she was teaching classes about spiritualism, which is a bit different from spiritism, but I didn't know anything about either of those at the time. But oh man, I signed up for that class and I sat in the front row. And it's so funny because she said, Spirit told me somebody's going to be writing my biography in the next year. And 3 people's hands shot up in the air. I'll write it. And I had already authored a couple books by that time, but I didn't have the nerve to say, I'll write Anne Gaiman's biography. To me, she was up on a pedestal. She was an amazing medium. She has since passed. And so I tell the story of how that came to be, how I came to write her story in my book, Messages of Hope. But in that class with Anne Gaiman, we practiced psychometry, where you trade a piece of jewelry with a partner or some object that you have held a lot, or like your wallet, something like that. And you see if you discern something about them. I actually discerned something about my partner. That was my very first time of saying, how did I know that? It's because I'd been sitting in silence for almost a year looking for Susan. I'd already expanded my consciousness, but wasn't aware I had awakened abilities. So there's a key for all of you. Why meditation
so
helps.
You sat every day for a few minutes and asked Susan to show up.
Yeah, every day. Right? I would say 10 minutes to 20 minutes, no longer than that. I wasn't obsessive about it. And nothing was happening at first, or so I thought. But I didn't realize I was training myself to bring my left and right hemisphere of the brain into a whole state. And then to quiet the mind as much as a human can. We can never quiet our mind completely. Right. And it was that focus every time, Susan, I'm looking for you. Show me you're here. Whatever. I didn't say it the same every time. But if something came into awareness that wasn't Susan and wasn't useful, I would just set it aside. I didn't realize that's the perfect training for connecting with higher consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's also incredible persistence, because you did that for, what was it, 2 years, 3 years before you started really having results?
Well, no, I did it for 3 years before Susan came very clearly, but I started getting results that I didn't expect. Within months, I started feeling more peaceful. Then I started knowing things about other people. That was just the intuition that we all have coming online. So I became much more intuitive through that practice. And then after writing Anne Gaiman's biography, I didn't get to tell you how I ended up getting that first reading. It's really not so relevant here. But after I wrote Anne Gaiman's bio, her next door neighbor at Lilydale in New York, Janet Nohavik, asked me to write her book. And Janet's the one that said, you can do this too, Suzanne. She saw it in my energy field. And I said, how do you know that? And I forgot, of course, she can see energy fields. So she said, no, you've got this. And in the class that she was teaching, and I was just sitting in the back to write her book, she had me bring through my very first spirit, and I was stunned because I had no idea I could do that. So to this day, Gloria and everybody, I teach classes in mediumship, and people come who have never done this before. But it's my saying we can all do this that makes people curious. What if I could do this? So we have in my classes always some people who have seen spirits their whole lives, some people who think they might be able to do it, and some people that are just curious. And it's so cool to have students have the same experience I had, not standing in front of everybody like I was put on the spot, but just pairing up with each other and saying, oh my God, how did I know that about your grandfather? How did I know that about your sister who died? Because they're right here and you opened up to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when it comes to guidance, I think we all hear it quite often, but we don't realize that it's not our own thoughts.
That's right. There's only one field we're all tapping into, and it gets divided up into all of us. So we're just tapping into the whole pool.
Tell us the story about Susan naming her dogs.
Oh my gosh.
And what does that say? I love that. I love them. And what does that suggest about the way the soul experiences time?
I don't share that story specifically so much because it was eclipsed by the young man, Mike Passacarnis Jr., whose nickname was Wolf, who I featured in my book, Wolf's Message, and the documentary by the same name, who was struck and killed by lightning like Susan. He left evidence that he knew he was going to pass, but it was only later I found out Susan, at a soul level, her soul saw this whole thing unfolding. I had an interaction in meditation with an expression of higher consciousness that we would know as a mythological figure, the Norse god Odin. Now, remember, you're talking to a former Navy commander here, so if you're ready to say this lady's nuts, just remember who you're dealing with. I learned to put anybody I sense in meditation to the test. Hey, who are you? What's your name? And I hear Odin, and I could see his face. I rarely see spirits' faces. This was a grizzled old man with long white hair and a beard. And he said Odin, and I asked him who he was. And that whole story is on a YouTube video I did. But months, maybe weeks later, after Odin came to me the first time, he dropped in on me. And he says, who was Susan's dog? Just out of the blue.
Didn't he say, who was my son?
That's right. You're right. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Gloria.
You can tell I love that story.
Yeah. Who was my son? Now, imagine if I'm making this up, I'm not going to have another figure ask me a question that I'm not expecting. So he says, who was my son? Now, I knew who the mythological figure Odin's son was because after he came to me the first and second times, I really researched him and found validations of so many things he told me about himself. So I, the proud student, I said, well, your son was Thor. And that's when he said, yes. And who was your stepdaughter Susan's dog? And I thought for a minute because it had been several years since she passed. And I said, oh my God, she named her dog Thor, after the god of thunder and lightning. So I come out of meditation. Just don't lose sight of the fact that this realization came to me from a Norse god, okay? So I go, and my guides just grabbed me right there and said, don't lose sight of the fact that all beings in a physical body or not are all expressions of the same source, which is why all of this communication is possible at all levels. So I go in and find my husband in the bathroom, shaving or brushing his teeth. And I said, Ty, who was Susan's dog? And he goes, Thor. I said, do you know who Thor is? The god of thunder and lightning. And he went, oh my God. And then I said, wait, because a thought came to me, but I know now it was part of this whole setup from spirit. I said, what was her other dog's name? What was it? Ty couldn't remember either. And I put it out to the universe, which is how you remember anything, because you don't remember it. It arises from the field once you put a request out there. I turned to go and I went, Loki. Oh my God. Loki was Thor's brother. Odin's adopted second son. So there's that Odin connection again. And it was years later, I don't know how I didn't think of it at the time. I realized she had 3 dogs at the time of her death. The other was a female dog. Are you ready? She named her Athena, the Greek goddess of thunder and lightning. And she was killed by lightning.
The daughter of Zeus, who was the god of thunder and lightning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Susan didn't know she was going to be struck by lightning at the human level, but it's all part of this bigger soul's plan of her death was horrible for our family, tremendous tragedy. And yet I know it was part of a soul plan with us, because if I'd been had any job that was normal, people might pay attention to me saying I talk to dead people now. But because of my background with the Navy and serving at the highest levels, they listen. They're curious. And then the way Susan passed really gets people's attention. And it's not about us telling our story. It's about, what does this mean for all of us? What does it say about who you are? We're all these aspects of the one source. Yeah. And because of Susan's death, I just checked the total views of my YouTube channel is just one example, just went over 20 million. That's how many lives plus have been touched because Susan died. That would not have caused people to question, who are we? What is this all about? It's all about love. It's all about connection. It's all about remembering we are souls here and now.
Yeah. And experiences like Susan's suggest, I mean, the way she named her dogs, it suggests that significant events somehow already exist within a larger field of consciousness before they unfold in physical time. And there's got to be some. I've heard a number of stories of people who consciously had no idea they were going to die. You know, like a friend of mine's husband, he had no idea he was going to suddenly drop dead of a heart attack. He didn't even know there was anything wrong with his heart. But in the couple of weeks before his death, he tied so many loose strings, you know. He reached out to people and family members who he had been estranged from, you know, and just made peace with them. You know, all these things that he did suggested that he knew he was going to die, but he didn't on a conscious level. You know?
That's right. The soul is so much more aware of what our human life is up to, what it's all about, and helping to orchestrate certain things to come together in a certain way.
Right. So, so it raises a fascinating question about time. If part of us can know something before it happens, does that imply a fixed future? Perceiving probabilities or patterns or possibilities rather than a predetermined event? Or could consciousness simply be transcending the space-time continuum and seeing what our free will chooses?
It's the latter, in my understanding and awareness, that we are part of right now a field of consciousness beyond space and time. But our lives here play out within space and time. So there are certain things that have to happen and come together. And there are wild cards, and that's the free will.
Yes. So in other words, precognition doesn't necessarily imply predestination. It seems paradoxical in a way that foreknowledge and free will can coexist. But if consciousness is not confined to linear time, then it can perceive the choices that we will freely make in linear time without determining those choices, right?
That's
Because,
right.
someone could say, well, you're talking about faith then. You're talking about, if you can know something ahead of time, then it must be written or it must be, but it's not quite that simple.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So from what you've learned through your experiences and through Sanaya, is that how you pronounce that?
Yes. Yeah, my
Sanaya?
team of guides who are right here.
Uh-huh. Would you say time is actually a property of consciousness, or is linear time more a feature of physical existence?
Oh, it's the
Like
latter. That's definitely my understanding of it. It's a
yeah,
result of this reality that we've chosen. Yeah.
it's a level, right? And I think when we dream, we often transcend that space-time.
Oh, there is no time in
level.
our dreams. It's just all happening. And that's what those who have near-death experiences experience as well, is there's no time.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Which is also comforting for us when we think about our loved ones who passed. When for Susan and so many spirits I've connected with have told me that it's like no time has passed since they died. It's just, and like this, there is no time. They're just aware of our movies playing out here in the physical world, but they're just existing in a different state, very much aware of us. But they say that when we cross the veil, it will be like a blink of an eye for them.
Yeah. Is there a danger in becoming so eager for signs from someone we've lost that we begin interpreting every coincidence as communication? How do you teach discernment without extinguishing openness?
I wouldn't call any of that a danger. I would say that intense need and desire to get signs all the time was actually an impediment to noticing the actual signs your loved ones are giving you. So I got to hear from, is that a sign? Is that a sign? Do you feel how you kind of clench up if you're feeling like that? Instead of trusting and saying, okay, my loved one, I know you're here. I love when you send me signs. Give me a very clear knowing when a certain event is a sign from you. And that's fine. Susan sent us the most clear indications that she was working with some butterflies to get us our attention. And so now to this day, every time we see a yellow butterfly, my husband and I point it out and we use it to say, hey, Susan, knowing she's right here in awareness, I'd like to talk about that more, about how our loved ones can be right here. But we don't think that Susan sent every butterfly or caught our attention every time. But if there's a really special occasion with a butterfly or any sign that your loved one sends you, it comes with this lift, this knowing from your heart connection that's eternal with that loved one. And you just know, oh, that was a sign. So you learn to trust, and then you don't naturally interpret everything as a sign. You drop the need and you just wait for those very special moments when the signs stand out, as they will. So may I talk about them being
sure,
right here?
please.
It's such a basic example of what I mean by that. But you would all understand that if you have a flat screen TV in your room where you are right now, or, well, yeah, let's do it this way. You're all looking at a screen of some sort right now, a phone or a computer or an iPad, some device. And you know that I'm not actually in your device. Hopefully that makes you laugh to think of something so ridiculous, right? That device is an instrument that's perfectly engineered to display what? It's not displaying me, it's displaying a frequency that is displaying me. Okay, it's my frequency. So, and I just exist. Okay, so what happens if suddenly your device stops working? It just burns out. Where did my signal go? It's still in your room with you. I'm not in your room with you. I just an expression of consciousness. I seem to think I'm right here because I can feel me, but even my experience of me is happening in awareness. When this body dies, what I think of as me still exists in awareness. So that's the point. When this instrument can no longer display the signal that we know as our loved ones or me, where does it go? It doesn't dissolve. It doesn't go off somewhere. It's still a pattern of consciousness of certain frequency that just no longer has an instrument to display it. So we know that Susan is always around, but not always paying attention to us. And we're not always paying attention to her. But when either one of us or you and your loved ones across the veil shift your focus, expand to the awareness that they still exist, boom, the other becomes aware of the other. That's how it works.
Yeah, it's a beautiful explanation.
So most of you right now, if I could see the spirits, I would see them sitting right beside you because they love that you're paying attention to these kinds of things and you're thinking of them right now, right? You know? So you could right now just go, hey, Mom, and feel your heart just expand or whoever's across the veil.
Have you ever received information that seemed completely wrong at the time, only to discover later that it was accurate?
Completely wrong.
That seemed completely wrong.
I know. Yeah. I would say many, 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 many times in a reading, but you learn to trust, and and through practice and training, you learn discernment. And so even though it may seem crazy, wild, and out there and couldn't possibly be right, if I test it with the discernment that I've learned, I'll feel, I know this is going to be right. Somehow I'm going to give it, as long as it's not harmful. Just in case it's not right. I wouldn't share information like that. And then just today, an hour ago, got an email from a woman I just gave a reading to last week. And she said, you know, those two things you said, and I didn't know what you were talking about. It's so clear to me now. I get those emails all the time, but I've trained myself to say and trust spirit anyway. Say what I'm getting. But nothing that I thought was well, there are just so many things that I can't believe. I can't believe this spirit who's coming through feeling so content. I can't believe this person was murdered, or I can't believe this person took their own life, but this is what I'm getting. And then the client says, yes, they did. So and so let me explain that. They're surrounded by love. They've realized their souls and not just the story that was so tragic. And we're talking to their soul.
Yeah. It was definitely part of my personal journey in the beginning, where I wasn't skeptical about the idea of spirit communication because I knew that was real, but I was skeptical about my ability to perceive it, right?
Yes.
And there were times when it just seemed like such a crazy thing, what was being said, what I was hearing. I thought, no, that can't be right. And then afterwards, and whenever I would not do what it said, what my guide would tell me, I would find out later that he was right, you know.
And this is how we learn. And that's why I tell my students, I tell my students, that's why you have to do the readings. You have to do the practice. So you get to the point where you realize how the spirit communication feels and how bad it feels when you don't share it and you find out later. It's just like, it's one of those moments we've all had. Why didn't I follow my intuition? It's the same thing.
Yeah. So, so conversely, when a connection does not produce strong evidence, how do you understand that? Is spirit unavailable? Is the medium's reception imperfect? Or are there other variables?
There are so many variables, and we never. My guys do not like when I use the word never.
Never say never.
Yeah, it's if you think in terms of the one field of consciousness, and each person involved in a reading, whether they're in a physical body or not, is a field of consciousness, a subfield within the greater field, you can see how if you have dynamic fields constantly changing, every single interaction is going to be different. So if the medium is not clear, coherent, coming from a place of love with the highest possible motive, they may not be in a very receptive mode that particular time. If the recipient, the sitter, the client has a certain lesson, such as I've had clients who were told to be afraid of readings, but they wanted to try it anyway. And they brought into this reading, oh my God, I'm so scared. I shouldn't be doing this. That can interfere with the connection. That's just one example. But those across the veil, I cannot remember a single instance where one did not want to come through. They would know the healing potential of coming through, because every spirit has something to say in addition to evidence that they use to show that it's them. The messages are universal, but specific. Apologies, that's the specific part. Thank yous, asking for forgiveness, as they're different for each person, but these are the universal messages that come through in a mediumship reading. And so they want the opportunity to say things that have not been said yet. So it could be planetary influences on a certain day. There are just so many variables. So we learn to notice, okay, the flow's not as good as I would like, but it's good. We're accomplishing our goal here of showing the continuity of consciousness. So we'll keep going. Or, wow, I'm just really off today. Let's meet another day. You learn to honor the current situation.
Right. In terms of an individual hearing guidance or seeking to hear guidance, as we've learned to become more receptive to inner or spiritual guidance, especially in the beginning, how important would you say that it's to retain a healthy skepticism about versus denial, of course, about what we're receiving? A Spiritist teaching emphasizes that simply because a communication appears to come from spirit does not necessarily make it wise or trustworthy. We still need to exercise discernment, just as we would with a living person, right?
Absolutely.
Considering the quality of the language, the maturity of the message, its coherence, humility, compassion, common sense, right? Just as we do with one another. So what criteria do you advise for distinguishing genuinely elevated guidance coming from a high source from communication that may be unreliable or ego influenced or even intentionally misleading?
Well, hopefully the client is sitting with a medium who they trust, and you as a recipient will be able to feel, as the message is coming to you, wait, that just doesn't feel right for me.
Right.
And
well,
if there's any, I know, but the way you worded that at the very end there made it clear. I wanted to make sure that people receiving messages are empowered enough to use their own discernment.
Yes.
But the medium themselves, that takes training. That absolutely takes training to learn the difference between your own mind picking up one little detail and running off and telling a story about it versus tuning in moment by moment with what you're getting. Does it maintain that feeling of connection as it's coming through? And as you share it with your client, you don't need to have feedback because this is talking about them. But there are times when we can't know everything. And so, again, if anything is going to be harmful to them, just don't share it. I do some readings that I call damage control readings in the Navy. If there's a hole in the ship and flooding taking place, a whole damage control team comes up and shores up the hole and stuff in it. So that's called, damage control. Well, if I hear about somebody that had a reading where they're suffering still from what they were told, I don't have the attitude, let me show you what's right. It's, let's see if I can tune in and get evidence to back up what you heard or not. Because I want to alleviate that person's suffering when I know that they have received a message that spirit would not give. For example, I heard a medium recently said, oh, I can't tune into your daughter in spirit because she's hiding and doesn't want to come out. Will not happen. Don't you agree, Gloria? Yeah. That was the medium not able to discern anything. So she was either not being truthful, making up a story, or that was her own ego making up a story to protect herself. It just doesn't work that way. But imagine being the parent who's the recipient of that.
Yeah.
So that if you hear something from a medium or a psychic that causes you fear or suffering, really question that. And why would they share something?
Yes, it's not ethical. I was thinking mostly about the person in isolation, not with the medium, but the person who is, as you were with Susan in the beginning, trying to make a connection by themselves, right? And hearing something that doesn't sound right, or that doesn't sound very elevated, what criteria?
The criteria is it helpful? Is it healing? Is it uplifting? If you feel fear, I would ask higher, why is this information coming to me? Do I need to be afraid? The soul is not afraid of anything, by the way, nothing. And so, but you may have precognition of somebody in the family who's sick, or something may happen to somebody in the family. If you go to fear, you're not going to be able to continue to get messages from the soul. So perhaps you were told that to prepare for something. I had a man come up to me in a recent class and say, in our guided meditation that you just left, my guides told me I'm going to die. That he was filled with fear from his own meditation. And I looked at him. I tried to discern anything, and this was not the time to discern it while I was in a group of people. And I said, well, we are all going to die. I said, there are two things that could have happened here. You misheard, or that is correct. If it's correct, this is your chance to prepare, get things in order, and possibly just find out something you didn't know that is going on in your body. I said, if that's correct. If it's not correct, this is an opportunity to let that go and not live in fear. So everything we hear is going to be an opportunity, but that discernment is critical.
Yeah. It's just, and another factor, I think, is our own motivation and intention in seeking communication. If we approach spirit from love, humility, and a desire to serve, we may be attuning ourselves to very different levels of consciousness than if we approach from mere curiosity or sensation seeking, or
that is the truth.
Yeah. Right? So how important do you think our inner state is in determining the kind of guidance or helpers that we attract?
It's critical, really. First of all, I hope all of you, when you go down this path, should you choose to try to connect with higher consciousness for yourself or others, will constantly check your motive. And what happens is when these abilities awaken in you, greater intuition, psychic awareness, connecting with others, there's very much the chance that this will inflate people's egos and make them feel they're special. And then you're going to want to do something with that impresses other people. But spirit has a way of knocking us down to make sure that we work for the right reasons. I had a major wake-up call that I think I've only shared with 2 people, but it was so painful to my ego. I mean, 2 years into this journey, that it was like, I'm now grateful for it, even though I would never go through that humiliation again. but I see it now as the perfect gift. So just know that this is what the human side of us does. And once you get that out of the way, now spirit can work through you in a beautiful way.
Yeah, and I think it's also a matter of vibration, right?
Oh, yeah.
The higher spirits have a higher vibration, the lower spirits have a lower vibration. If our vibration, if we can raise our vibration through connecting with our deeper self, then then we will attract higher guidance or higher level of
And if I could make a distinction there, we do, and I continue to use the term higher vibration because we all relate to higher as better. A more clear way to say it is more coherence, a more coherent field. That doesn't make you feel like you have to put out effort and go somewhere higher. It's simply coherence means stable, centered, clear. So the more clear your field is, not gunked up with fear, angst, need, desire, judgment, ego, all those things cause disharmony in your field right here. So you don't go higher, you become more open, clear, coherent. And now the higher ups can really work with you.
Yeah. Beautifully. Over the years, I've noticed something among the Spiritism students, as they become more open to the possibility that consciousness continues beyond death, the fear of death, just understanding more about this other realm and this transition, the fear of death often begins to give way to wonder and curiosity. You must have witnessed similar transformations in the people you've worked with. So the more we understand about where we're going, the less fear we have, right? And especially when we know our loved ones are there.
It's a tightrope we walk, because once you find out how love-filled and expansive the next level of reality after this one, the one we came from, the greater reality, the non-physical reality is, there's often that feeling, well, why don't we all just rush off and go there right now? We don't want everybody to cut short our time here. And it's challenging because just because there's a greater reality, just because you open up your abilities, does not take away the pain of this life. But it does lessen, it lessens the suffering for sure. And then you really understand why you're here, to serve the soul and others here. And then your life really, the purpose really opens up, no matter who you are, no matter what work you're doing. It's about serving each other and remembering, I am this light. Let me shine it. We get many more opportunities to shine that light here than just shining continuously across the veil.
Yes. Yeah. And I would say that the most important understanding that spirits have imparted through mediumship is what we call spirit is already the deepest dimension of who we are.
Yes.
Right. So even more fundamental to what they teach us about death and the afterlife is what they teach us about life and choices we make prior to incarnation and what our purpose is. Yeah. Yeah. So the title Always Connected.
My guide said you were going there next.
Suggests that connection is not something we create, but something that already exists.
Yes. Right? Yeah, we clear away the noise that's blocking it through becoming coherent. Yeah. That's what all the practices teach us to do. And I wanted to say before I forget, that book, it's over here, I have it here, is a tuning fork. I could say it is a transmission of higher energy, but really it allows your field, as you're reading it and doing the practices, to become more coherent and train to the energy of the guides that wrote it through me, which is really cool. You could probably feel it if you're attuned.
Yes, for sure. No doubt about it. um, and so if that connection is intrinsic to us, let's talk about what it is that blocks our awareness of it. Uh, the ego is one of the primary filters, right, that keeps us identified with the separate self.
Yeah.
What are others? What are the things that
I'm going to make this really easy. And I saw at least one of you who spent the weekend with me at the Omega Institute. And so you've heard this. This is my new teaching this year, but makes it so simple to understand the whole concept here, what's blocking us. We are the light of consciousness. You can call that a soul. There is an aspect of all of us that never changes. It just is pure awareness. So if you'd like to experience that for a minute, just look for it.
Mm-hmm.
There was a pause there between my speaking and the first thing that arose. That's pure awareness. It's right here. And it was the same in every one of you. It's a space, a pause, a state of pure being before any sensation arises, any thought arises, any feeling arises. That we'll call the base or operating system 1. It is the base in all of us. It's the I am that never changes, the base. Then on top of that, we get what I call overlays. That's the narrative, the story of you and me and all that is added to the base that we all share. So think of the base like a transparency projector. Remember those? This little square thing with the light that's coming out of it, and you project pictures and images onto a screen or a wall. The light of consciousness, your base, my base, the base of all that is the projector, the light. And then the overlays are what we would know as transparencies, right? One sheet after another with something on it, words, thoughts, stories, pictures, images, and they add up and they add up as we experience this life in human form. So if we were to clear away the overlays that didn't serve us as we grow and take on stories and adventures and memories and history, if we were to remember we're that light, no problem. We have to have a story while we're here. But the problem is most of us just layer on one thing people tell us after another, one experience, all our trauma, all our drama, all the good stuff. So it doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. These become transparencies that sooner or later block that light of awareness within us. Oh, wait, I am both the base and the overlay. The ego is part of the overlay. It's a result of all these transparencies adding up to the story of you. So the path of awakening is at some point something happened, like with Susan's death. It just blew apart my worldview. All these transparencies no longer made sense because this medium proved to me Susan was right here. My story didn't make sense. So I threw away enough of it that, wait a minute, this light is right here. That's my soul. And so then life becomes a matter of saying, which of these overlays serves me and which is blocking my light? So the ego is not bad. It's a challenge when it blocks your light. You see? So the overlays aren't bad. They're a natural result of being in human form or having any narrative, even across the veil without a story. You can't know who your loved one is. So think in terms of operating system 1, the base, and operating system 2 as the overlays. And I have a new phrase that Spirit gave me. This is the first time I'm sharing it publicly. In between a stimulus and an action is a space. That's your base. See how it rhymes? So in between anything that happens, any stimulus, and the moment you react or think or do anything, there's this space. That's the base from which the next action arises. And as a sentient aspect of consciousness, you get to make a choice. Is it going to benefit the soul or is it going to cause suffering to my story here? This is all the result of mediumship for me. This is the spiritual stuff I love to share. Mediumship showed me there's so much more. It's one path to what we call self-realization, coming to know we are the light of consciousness. But I find that when we can use it for healing, to know that our loved ones are still here, and to come to know who we really are here and lessen our suffering and increase our connection with each other, then that's the real blessing.
That is the real blessing.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. And I love your analogy. The ego is, I don't see the ego as something to overcome or eliminate, but as a construct that we've developed to help us navigate the everyday world. And the difficulty arises when we identify with that construct as who we actually are, rather than recognizing it as a useful tool of the human personality, right? So
let me share with you that I did mention, I think, that I just interviewed Dr. Marjorie Woolacott for my podcast. It'll be shown at the end of the month. She is doing research with the autistic people that were featured in the podcast, the telepathy tapes. And she noticed that one of these young men who's autistic and nonverbal, but is using a writing board, does not refer to himself as I. His name is Casey, and he'll say, Casey did this or that. It's because he knows he's so much more than that. And Casey is the story that his body mind is using to navigate this life. But he communicates and taps into all other stories quite naturally because he doesn't have the same filters that normally come with these bodies.
Yeah. It's interesting. Autism is a fascinating topic in itself.
Yeah, I don't want to go there, but just an aside about identifying with the ego. Most of us identify with, I'm Suzanne, I'm Gloria, I'm Richard, right. I'm Sylvia, and
a profession or nationality or a religion or, so many things that, even mother, daughter,
the role.
So the key is to recognize when our thoughts, for me, the key is to recognize when our thoughts are ego-driven, right? Rather than soul-driven.
Right.
So discernment, right? And then the question is, how do we distinguish the two? And so there are qualities, fear, defensiveness, the trying to control, right? Being in control are the ego qualities that when we're feeling them, we can identify, okay, so do I want to, continue in that vein, or do I want to find a higher expression of what's going on, right?
And this is the beauty of teaching mediumship as a path to self-realization, because if you all truly want to connect with your loved ones who have passed, it behooves you to be open, clear, coherent. And so every moment of the day, you can see, is my ego constricted or expansive? So ego is both. But if it's restricting you and constricting you through any of those qualities that Gloria talked about, that is going to cut off your connection with higher consciousness. If you catch yourself and you correct and you just say open, right away, you're clearing your energy field, and that is cumulative. So it becomes like work to self-monitor, but the results are phenomenal. It's freedom.
Yeah,
serious.
It is. It's freedom. Okay. So early in the book, you invite readers to move beyond inherited beliefs and begin trusting direct inner guidance. Were there beliefs that you personally had to relinquish before you could recognize that guidance? And how can we tell when an old belief system is actually obstructing spiritual experience? Because a lot of beliefs deny the existence of another dimension, or
they will hold you back from manifesting what you want, your own beliefs. They will. Okay, right. The guides just said it's just like who was it? Henry Ford said, if you think you can't,
you're right.
Can't. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you're right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So
This is why if somebody reaches out to me, and they just did it the other day, it said, I really want my sister to have a reading because she's suffering since a loved one passed. And I know that this will help her. So I said, that's a beautiful sentiment on your part. But if she is not open to it, that could actually get in the way of our connection. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So you write about guidance during periods of transition. Why do you think major disruptions like loss or illness or changes in relationship, uncertainty about purpose, so often become openings to deeper spiritual awareness? Why does it come in that form so often? I've had people say to me, thank God I got cancer because it forced me to go deeper. It forced me to start thinking about, what my life purpose was and, that kind of thing. So major disruptions like illness or loss
and again, I call these wake-up calls because sometimes we just go along in our lives and things are flowing and we have no reason to change our worldview or expand our belief system. And then suddenly something happens like a cancer diagnosis, and suddenly you start questioning life. Life is my acronym for love in full expression, and the fullness includes diagnoses we'd rather not have, deaths of people that we love. When that fullness hits us straight on, now we question things and we start to realize we need other people. We start to receive greater love from those around us. I'm going to be speaking at a conference at the end of the month for a group of 1,000 parents with children across the veil. And I can't wait because it's going to be a reunion of some of the people I love the most in this world. Not that love is, less or more for it. Love is love, but some of my deepest friendships, let's put it that way, from this group of people, because we have all endured one of those passings that just takes the legs out from under you.
Yeah. So, yeah. So they make us those experiences make us start questioning often our own belief systems as well.
That's the goal. I have in my book, The Awakened Way, there's a section about a process called self-inquiry, where you literally question all of your BS, your belief system, one by one, and say, well, I didn't believe there was an afterlife. What if there is a greater reality? What are my beliefs about this? What if they're wrong? Am I willing to change? And if you are, then that's when I say, buckle your seatbelt.
Right. And there are people who, blame God or blame, how could a loving God take my loved one away?
Well, that's the deepest question you can ask is what is God? Is God a person? Is God a who? And we may never find the accurate answers, but as you expand your vision of God, perhaps change your language about that, you'll find your belief system naturally expanding.
Right. Yeah. Not as some kind of puppet master who just controls everything. Forgiveness is another major theme in your book. What does forgiveness look like from the soul's perspective? Is it primarily releasing another person or releasing our own identification with the injury?
It's releasing the cord that's holding you to that other person. That's why it's so healing, because you can't stop thinking about that person. Your fields are constantly attracting each other, even if you don't want it. So I had an actual person in human form tell me from the soul level, forgiveness is cutting the cords that hold you prisoner to them. And it's the most accurate explanation I've heard of it. It doesn't say they're right. It doesn't say it didn't happen. It just says, I no longer want to be bound by you. I'm going to free myself from you, and I wish you healing as well. You don't have to add that last part, but it's really going to help you when you do anything with love.
Yes. Yeah. And if we harmed someone who has since died, is healing of that relationship still possible? From what you've experienced in mediumship, can apology or forgiveness or reconciliation occur across the boundary of death?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And that's why so many spirits come through and ask for forgiveness. It heals both. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I've always advised people, say what you need to say before you or anybody else passes, so that neither one of you has to find a medium to say those things. And you don't have to find a medium. You can say them, even if somebody's passed. You can say, so-and-so, I forgive you. I'm sorry I didn't get to say that while you were here. And know that they hear it. Know that they receive it. But if you do that through a medium, then you get to hear their response. Maybe you'll hear it yourself. That's very possible. But just know that you don't have to have a medium.
Right. Yeah. And, to a certain extent, we're all mediums, because we all have that connection, whether we're aware of it or not. And I love how you make the phrase, hey, spirit, taken from hey, Siri, right?
Right.
Sound almost deliberately ordinary.
Oh, please make it ordinary.
Yes.
Yeah. Spirit doesn't need you to be lofty, formal, spiritual, whatever that means. They are just, it's consciousness born of love, connection. We are at the base the same light. We share the same light with everyone. So spirit loves humor. What's going to lift your vibe? Something, I'll just say, hey guys, what do I need to know right now? That's fine.
And you often speak of our essential interconnectedness. So how do you reconcile for people individuality? In other words, my loved one is still my loved one, right? With the deeper teaching that consciousness is ultimately one. It's a paradox, right?
Well, this is the challenge, and that's why they often use the word mystery in spirituality, because there are certain things that we will never have answers for, but the both/and nature of consciousness is one of the things you learn to say. It can be both of these things, or it can be neither, and at the same time something completely else. And that's going to determine on, is your focus constricted or expanded?
We're all unique expressions of the one mind is kind of how I tend to think about it.
Yeah, it's interesting, because having been trained in the military to be like everyone else, to literally march in step, to wear the same uniform, it was an untraining for me to appreciate that we all came here to be this unique expression of the divine, every one of us. And so there are sometimes when we do need to march in step with each other, and yet at the same time, we are sovereign beings who make choices. So that's that paradox again. Yeah. So when we just learn to weigh everything against the heart, is this going to serve the greater good? Then that will be our guiding focus.
Would you say that death reveals a reality that is always present, already present around us now, but normally filtered out
Oh,
by the
that's it.
brain and the senses?
That's completely it. And that's why meditation is so helpful, because it's filtered out by certain processes within the human physical body nervous system. So meditation actually dampens some of those processes and amplifies the flow of information that's already here. And that's what you start to notice as you come more into balance and quiet some of those filters. You remove the static from the signal.
Yeah, exactly. The book combines spirituality with consciousness studies. Where do you believe current research into consciousness most strongly converges with what you have learned experientially through mediumship? And where do you think science remains constrained by assumptions about what counts as evidence?
Well, I just was invited to be part of a group gathering of people who study consciousness, many of them physicians, physicists, other scientists, neuroscientists. I was one of the few practitioners of non-physical consciousness work. So that was a real honor to be in that group, but it was eye-opening to me how many people and professionals are still what we call materialists. That means they truly believe and are studying to prove that consciousness is created by the brain. And I have had the experience that that is not necessarily so. People who've had near-death experiences have had the experience that that's not so. And so I'm very pleased and gratified to see the pendulum swinging here, and that materialism will become to be seen as a very limiting construct. Scientists study the waves, right? Mystics, those who know we are one with source, ask, what if we are the water? And so happily, more people are coming to study the water, the waves, how it all fits together, and ask, what if there's more to this reality than what we can only test right now with our instruments?
Yeah. And some of the great physicists, including people like Niels Bohr and Max Planck, have insisted that consciousness is fundamental, not, a product of the brain, right?
Okay.
I had a question in my head and went right back out again. Let's see. So, so once someone becomes convinced that consciousness survives bodily death, what do you think the next question should be? In other words, what does survival actually tell us about the nature of consciousness?
The next question, and my guide said this in a channeling session once, the most important question any of us can ask is, who am I? So if, as I believe it does, consciousness survives death, what does that mean about you and you and you and me? It means that we are not only human, that we are not these bodies. So what does that mean? That means we are souls. Well, if I am a soul, why am I here? How can I allow my light to shine more? Am I fulfilling my purpose of being the light of consciousness and expressing love? Or am I collapsing into fear, which is the human way? Once you understand that consciousness is fundamental, it really changes everything. And that's freeing, totally freeing.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I like seeing the heads nodding. I hope you've experienced that. Yeah.
When we ask spirit a question, talk about the ways the response most commonly arrives through words, images, bodily sensations.
Know that the the response to anything we ask for arises from a field of consciousness. It doesn't start here. It doesn't come in here necessarily. The challenge is that we sense it. We hear things, we see things, and we tend to think that this brain is producing this experience, and this is where consciousness is. But if you notice, thoughts arise. They're just here. And then we process them. Feelings, you're aware of them. So the best way that you receive information, the best way, the optimal way to perceive is a knowing. It doesn't have to come through seeing, hearing, touching, feeling. You just know something because why? It arose from the field within your field and you just knew it. But you may hear things then. Did you hear it in your ears? No. How did you hear it? Well, I just heard it. It's because it arose where? In awareness. Huh. So do I believe that? Can I trust that? Now you test it in the gut. That feels right to me. That feeling arose in awareness. It's not really in the gut. You're just centering your focus at the center of you and going for the knowing that accompanies all the other ways that spirit speaks to us.
Yeah, that was a mistake that I made when I was first learning to hear guidance. There was a small group of us, and we were interested in learning energy healing, but we didn't have a teacher. So we decided that we had a massage table, a portable massage table. So we would take turns being on the table, and we would take turns approaching the table and doing whatever we were led to do, right?
Yeah.
And well, one of us, not myself at the time, but one of us, my friend John, he was clairvoyant and could see spirits very easily, and I would approach the table and I would get this image in my mind of hand positions, right? And I would immediately dismiss it as, well, that's just my imagination. That's not guidance. I thought guidance would be this, now hear this booming voice,
Yeah.
And so I dismissed it. And then he would say, your guide is telling you to put this hand here and this hand here.
And that's how you learn. That's what we were talking about. You learn to say, exactly. I'm not going to not say that anymore. I'm going to trust that. Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes it's the preconceptions that we have about how guidance should come that keeps us from recognizing it. Right.
And I teach a process, I believe it's in my book, The Awakened Way, about being snagged, letting spirit catch your attention with anything around you. When you feel that feeling, that's one way your guides speak to you, by snagging you with a book title across the room on a shelf, by snagging you with something that just happened, and you ask, what is the message in that? And there comes a message through that knowing. There's no limit to how spirit can speak through you.
Yeah. So let's see. For someone grieving deeply, what does it mean to say that the relationship continues? Surely the physical absence still matters enormously. So how do you hold both truths at once?
We have 4 minutes until Q&A, and I'll tell you, tune into my live podcast Sunday, because it's all about how to hold on to that connection. It's all about the fact that they're still right here. How's that, Gloria?
Okay.
Just go to YouTube, to my channel on YouTube, and we're going to have a whole hour talking about that.
And it will be there afterwards also,
yes,
right?
It will, if you can't tune in live. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Noon Eastern, 9 Pacific.
Yeah. One last question then. Do you believe that people in spirit continue to grow and evolve? If so,
yes, I know they do.
What does spiritual development mean once the challenges and limitations of physical embodiment are gone.
Expanding your awareness of who you are, even across the veil. Okay, the guides just said it is honing your ability to hold the higher frequencies of pure love. I know that over the years, I've been able to hold more of that frequency of love. It can be very tiring. It'll blow your circuits. That's why people who have sudden Kundalini awakening experiences, where that energy that's dormant in all of us, just all of a sudden is full blast flowing through your body, and it can cause us to become very much off balance. So across the veil, we no longer have a physical body, but we are still able to hold in our field the vibration of greater coherence. So we fine tune that through service. Perhaps if you've worked out every possible scenario and human characteristic in life after life after life in human form, you're at the point to guide other humans here, and you may become a spirit guide. You're not going to come back and embody anymore. But those who say, I'm never coming back, I would never sign up for this again, actually probably will come back, because if you don't understand it's all an opportunity to love more, then you're still in a fear-constricted state. By the time you have no fear and you just say, bring it on, because I know all I have to do is give love. I know that all is well. I trust spirit completely. I trust that everything happens for a reason. Then what's the point of coming back?
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So let's open it up for questions. Shirley, go ahead. Unmute, please.
Yes, thank you. I did. Thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed it. I receive all your daily readings.
Oh, nice.
One of the things that and not necessarily a question, but it was a comment that struck me when you were talking about the base, and I assume that's the I am.
Yes.
And the overlays. And what struck me was that it's like music, and that it's like a note with all of the harmonics. And so that each one of the harmonics, if something is off there, that will change the whole music. And since our body seems to be like an orchestra, and with everything tuned right, if it isn't, we'll have discord. So that, to me, that's what struck me by what you were saying. That's
nice analogy. Yeah.
That's a good analogy. Yeah. Okay, Richard Basnick.
Yes.
Hey, Richard.
Hi, Suzanne. You asked some really good questions, Gloria. That's pretty good. I've been following Suzanne for 6 or 7 or maybe even 8 years. I didn't keep track, but and every time I always learn something new from her. For anybody who's just tuning in for the first time, she not only is a gifted medium and spiritual teacher, she is an incredibly decent human being. Very, very nice to follow. But anyway, my question is this. I know across the veil, there is no time, but specifically, I don't need to mention names because that's not important, but in 1970, I was 13, I think she was too. There was a young girl who died tragically in a school bus accident with her sister. And she wasn't a relative, barely a friend. We were the same age, but wasn't a relative, wasn't a loved one. And I can't imagine her thinking that I would be trying to get in touch with her. But would it be better to go to her gravesite and start that process, or is that not necessary?
Totally unnecessary. She's not there. The remnants of the body that carry her field, that imprint is there. She may show up. Of course, if you're going to be at anybody's grave, you're thinking about them from the heart. So they are drawn to you as a field of consciousness, but not because they're in the grave.
No, right. I just thought that maybe if they would be paying attention more, because I can't imagine her wanting or thinking that I'd be trying to get in touch.
But
And I,
see, you knew each other, right?
yes.
Yes. So there's already a relationship, even though it's not as strong as a family relationship. It was just somebody you knew. So
Mhm.
trust me, there was a woman that I worked with at the Pentagon for a very short period of time. And we just picked up on each other because we knew each other and there was some shared commonality. So what you would do is think about anything you had in common, bring back memories that you had with that certain person, put yourself back in the feeling of what it was like to talk to them at that time. You are now regenerating that field and what you have in a shared resonance. And now you say, hey, I'd love to connect with you again. And boom, it's just like
And
that.
this is
So,
through a meditative state.
oh, that will help for sure, because that helps you become more coherent, just settling into a nice, calm, relaxed state and clearing the mind as much as you can. You're creating alpha brain waves, which are optimal for that connection to take place. So if I were to just go right now and want to connect with you, it's not going to be the same because your brain is still too active.
Okay. Hey, Chris, and underneath there with a hat on, you know what I'm saying about Suzanne is true, don't you? Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. All
Okay,
right, Gloria. I'll sign off and listen to the
thank you,
rest.
Richard. Thank you. Um, I'll
I
mute
saw
you
a
again.
question in the chat there that I'd like to address, Gloria.
Yes,
Yeah, it was
yes.
somebody that said, my family said that talking to the dead is inviting in the devil or of the devil,
Mhm.
some words to that effect. You know, is
Yeah.
that true? Is that anything I have to worry about? This is where self-inquiry comes in, because I was raised with a family that never said that. So I didn't have that as my belief system, my BS.
Mhm.
So with no fear of something that I had never personally experienced, I came to the personal experience of knowing we are all the light, and the devil as a conscious form, if it exists, is going to go where fear is. So as you hold the light, there's no reason to fear anything at all. Fear will simply pass through you. Now, the second question, is it wrong to talk to those who have passed? I can't think of a single reason that would make that wrong. In my experience, it is all about healing, comfort, connection, sharing messages that have not been shared yet. Not only is it not wrong, it is highly beneficial and healing and comforting. And that's why mediumship exists.
Okay, Bill has had his hand up, and then there's another question in the chat, and Kristen has her hand up. So
Great.
we'll
Good
go
to
in that
see
order.
Bill. Bill was at
Bill.
Omega with his son. You've been on my cruise.
Hi, Suzanne. A
Hi,
very
Bill.
basic question that may be helpful to some of us. How does one raise one's vibration in meditation?
Okay. And that, if you've watched my video, 7 Steps to Higher Consciousness, that is the second step where we say L, bless me method. L is lift your vibration or raise it. Again, this is not going higher. It's really not raising your vibration. It's becoming more coherent. So if you were to picture your energy field as vibrations, a coherent field would be steady and even, and all systems are in phase. Everything's working together. That's what we call harmony. That came up as music before. So how do you create a harmonious field? How do you create a coherent field is a better question than how do we raise our vibration. The easiest, fastest way that's been proven by an organization called HeartMath, heartmath.org, is gratitude. So if you want to instantly raise your vibe, we'll use that term because we do know what it means. You sit and you just bring to mind something you're grateful for in this moment. But don't just think about it. Feel the gratitude and combine that with some relaxed, long, slow breaths. I am so grateful for this connection with spirit. I'm so grateful for whatever, you have just instantly raised your vibe. Loving thoughts and such. So let me share with you now. So excited. If you have my Awakened Way app, it's free. We're about to push out a new version this weekend. Anybody can download it on your smartphone, free, Awakened Way. And it's the Gratitude Journal Plus, a way to daily raise your vibe. And it's so much more. This is the plus part. It's so much more than just what am I grateful for? Wait till you see it. I'm going to do a video to demonstrate all the capabilities of this new addition to the Awaken Way app, but it's a daily practice of what am I grateful for? What awesome things are happening in my spiritual life? You're going to love it, but this is one way to raise your vibe. Gratitude. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for the emphasis on gratitude.
Yes.
If there's one form of prayer that I really believe in, is gratefulness, gratitude. Right.
Yes, certain. There's a reason for that.
I think Meister Eckhart said, if your only prayer is thank you, that will be enough. So there's a question. I had Kazumi says, I had a question about soulmates. Is that a real thing, or is that just all a bunch of belief systems?
Could be belief systems. However, when you meet a certain person and there's a knowing that arises that you are meant to be together, even if it's not a love relationship, that's a soulmate. Okay. Like my soulmate Ty. We don't agree on everything. And sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, we're not on the same path. And yet there's no doubt in my mind, we are supposed to be together. And I know it's because of Susan's passing that we made an agreement, all of us, the three of us, Susan, Ty, and me, when we came here, we were going to be together so that when she passed, I could fulfill my duty of sharing these messages with people as a result of her passing. So when the first time I met Ty, there was this knowing, wow. So a soulmate, there's a recognition, just like we talked at the beginning, that you may not know you're going to die, but certain things come to the surface, that some actions you need to take. When you meet a soulmate, there's a feeling of, we're supposed to know each other. We're supposed to journey. It does not mean you are supposed to spend the rest of your life with that person necessarily. You will accomplish something together that will have some effect that you may not even see till you pass. But there's a knowing we're part of a soul family and we are supposed to be here and now together.
Kristen, you have your hand up.
Hi, I just want to thank, hi, Suzanne. I just want to thank everyone thank Spirit for bringing everyone together. I initially wasn't going to raise my hand, but since Richard kind of called me out, I accidentally, in trying to unmute myself, raised my hand. So I feel like, okay, I'm supposed to say it. So it's really just, and I didn't want to say anything because I don't want it to come across as like ego-driven. But I just wanted to thank you, Suzanne, because gosh, it's like, and I guess the thanks extends to Susan because, like you said, she's the one that sparked like all of your light that you've emanated into the world, into the universe. But I just wanted to share that in experiencing a tragic loss, perceived loss, I came across a video of you doing an introduction on, I believe it was like the Shift Network, just about the foundations of mediumship. And when I was watching that, I had like a download that said, my higher self, I believe, said that you're going to be a medium and you're going to have the best life. And I ran into my son's room and I told him, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a medium and have the best life.
That's great.
Having no background or experience in this. Well, last week I just got my email from Sally Hawk promoting me to professional on Very Soul.
Oh, congratulations.
So
See?
that's why I didn't want it to come across as like a
No, this is
thing.
joy. This is source speaking through you and expressing. This is why you came here to shine your light in that particular way, and you're doing it. So why not shout it out to the world, right? That's joy expressing itself through you.
Yes. And
Yeah.
Suzanne, I just like I feel I reference you all the time when I do readings because it's just like it's just unbelievable when we trust and believe the beauty of like what is possible. Like,
Yeah.
Suzanne, I know you understand this. I can't even believe I'm talking to you right now. I'm just so like, I'm so humbled and like honored, but like,
Well,
I know you
congrats,
understand.
and you're going to help a lot of people, and it's because of your dedication and your commitment and your belief and your trust. So that's
Yes,
awesome.
but you were a
Wow.
spark to that. So I just wanted to
Thank you.
humbly thank you because like
Well.
you have stated, like you would never believe in a million years that you would be doing this line of work, but it's like the most beautiful. Um, yes, I can't imagine like my soul doing anything other than this. So I
That's it.
have to hats off. So yes,
Okay.
Richard, I understand the amazing energy of Suzanne Giesemann. So thank you so much.
You're
Okay.
welcome. And
Thank
by
you,
the way,
Krista.
everybody, as you saw those beautiful heart emojis going up on the screen there, my guides have told me that when we pray for our loved ones in spirit and we send them love, that's what it feels like to them. They
Mhm.
literally, it's like those little hearts come up and they feel it in a non-physical way. And it's like, oh, my loved one's thinking of me or praying for me. And now they pop in on you.
And Juliana has a question in the chat. Can you say a bit about how to connect with the angelic realm and higher beings? Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Realize, oh, there's the guides because they want to say realize that
Mhm.
that we are no different from you as far as we are all beings of light. This is my guides talking now. You tend to put us in categories, and then there comes a hierarchy, which was Suzanne would understand as rank, but all are expressions of the same source. And so simply think of us with love in your hearts. This expands your so-called vibration, and simply call out to us using whatever name you need, but we know from your thoughts who it is you're trying to connect with, and it is that simple. Your intention makes it so.
Okay.
And also, I'm going to add to that that we humans become more coherent to affect larger groups, to speak to what we call higher groups. But angels are already able to connect with all of humanity. That's what makes them angels. So a spirit guide can help you and a certain group like your soul family. This is to my understanding. Angels can then help large groups. Archangels can, and the masters can affect and help all of humanity at once.
Thank you. That touched my soul. Thank you.
Good. Good, good.
Okay. Carla?
Hi, Carla.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Can you, would you be so kind to ask Sanaya, how is my soul doing today, please?
I can ask them, but to do individual readings when I'm tuned into the whole group is not my focus right now. So, but let's see. Okay. I can't do it.
Sorry.
Okay. It's just
I didn't know this was a reading. Sorry, it was just a question.
Yeah, no. To tune into how is your soul? I mean, oh, okay. Well, Sanaya says they can answer that question for everybody.
Okay.
This is a perfect point. Your soul, everybody's soul, is perfectly fine and whole and complete and beautiful. And how is your human self doing expressing that light is a different question. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then it becomes a reading. This is the point that is so beautiful, that people feel, oh, my soul is broken. My soul, I have a tear in my soul. That is an analogy that gives us a false impression of the nature of the soul. The soul is a field of light, dynamic, moving, whole. How it expresses through the human body becomes constricted and restricted. But beyond time and space, the soul is perfectly fine. Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
And in the chat, there's a statement from, I don't know, I don't have a name. It just says iPad 2. And it says, I feel better. Thank you, Suzanne. Oh, my name is Debbie Ware. That is in the 411 community.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Um,
I shared with that group
Oh.
in an online webinar about a month ago, and I was hoping it was very healing. So that's good.
Mhm. Penny?
Hi, Suzanne and Sanaya.
Yeah.
I'm part of your fan club as well, and I've read many of your books and been on your cruise. And I wanted to share something that someone taught me about showing gratitude. And it's a practitioner who says that we should use the sign language for love. And that this is a powerful sign. And if we put it on our heart and our hara while we're meditating, and we say infinite love and gratitude, and just saying it out loud really brings it to you and puts it in your heart and your hara. And it just is a wonderful practice that I've gotten into. And
excellent.
A little bit of your practice and a little bit of another person. So
beautiful.
It's a very helpful technique.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, my guide years ago gave me an exercise to do when I go to sleep. And he's also given it to many people who have worked with in a healing capacity, that as you're going to sleep, after you turn out the light and you're ready to drift off, you think of 5 things from that day only that you're grateful for.
Nice.
And he says, going to sleep in gratitude displaces fear, stress, anxiety, any of those things, because they can't coexist. And so going to sleep in gratitude, he says, is important how you go to sleep. So that's my exercise.
Sure is.
Yeah. Heather said, Bill, I recommend Suzanne's video, Radiant Heart Meditation. You can find it on YouTube.
And on the Awaken Way app. And also on the Awaken Way app is Sleep Comes Easily. Speaking of sleep, is a channeled guided meditation that'll help you fall asleep.
Yeah. Oh, and 5 is a rule of thumb, because I often fall asleep after 1. And that's okay.
That's good. Yeah.
And if you're awake longer, you can think of 20. That's fine too. Let's see. Anybody have their hand up right now? I don't see any. Richard said, Suzanne, I did light those candles for you.
I was seeing you pointing at the candles, Richard. Richard, turn your phone off when this is over, because there's a text I need to send you. Okay. Turn it on. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So any other questions? We have about 9 more minutes.
I can tell you that one of the biggest challenges people have is learning to trust that what you're sensing can be trusted. All right. Discernment again.
Yes.
And I'm very grateful that, what is today? August 7th. On August 12th, my newest HemiSync recording is being released, and it's called Trusting the Connection. And it's really cool because I have 6 other HemiSync recordings, and they've asked me to do a new one for several years. And I said that I have there's nothing new here. And suddenly the guide said, now you're ready to do this one. And they gave me the narrative for the 2 tracks on that recording. So if you're on my mailing list, you'll hear about it, or you can just go to the HemiSync company after August 12th. But these are downloads that are great for meditation, because they have binaural beats that help your 2 hemispheres come into balance. They're like training wheels for meditation. So I'm very pleased with how this one came out. It's training you in just trusting the experience you have and very subtle energies. So it's going to be cool.
Cool. Sounds good. I didn't know that there were spoken hemisync recordings.
Yeah.
My only experience with hemisync was listening to this kind of music and
in fact, in mine, it's mostly spoken and then it's soft, what they call pink noise. So you just hear nothing distracting other than my voice, but we leave plenty of space for you to have your own experiences. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Kristen raised her hand. Go ahead, Kristen.
Suzanne, I just had a question about like parallel lives and like the awareness of our parallel lives. Do they, it's like, do our parallel lives work in conjunction to help us in like this awareness or instance of life? Like, are they working together?
The whole question blows my mind, so I'll do my best with you. But my guides have shown us that even what we call past and future lives are more like CDs stacked on top of each other, where different aspects of those lives that are actually happening all at once in the awareness outside of space and time touch on each other and can influence what's happening here. So I don't know that that answered your question, but just that there's so much more going on here than we realize. And in fact, have I shared this publicly? Maybe I shared it at Omega, that I realized we can have conversations with our other lives. And I'm aware of a past life that I had, a so-called past life, and reached out to that role, that person. And we actually had an interaction like in a mediumship reading. And I asked for evidence about that life that I could validate online. And I did. And I asked for a sign to validate the conversation. And I got that sign 4 times in the next hour. So it's fun to play with consciousness. So I hope that you all will have a childlike attitude moving forward, that yes, there can be very serious things happen in mediumship, but when you're playing with your guides or your own loved ones across the veil, once you've cleared out the serious stuff, which continues on our path, I still find stuff I need to root out. And that's part of the joy. Have fun with this. Hey, what sign are you going to give me today? Really? I have my monthly connection. That's a monthly webinar I do coming up Tuesday night. And I'm sharing a huge wow. One of those that made me gasp when the sign actually came to me. And my poor husband, once again, what's the matter? No, I just got my sign. I'm sorry. So have fun with this.
Okay. Bill?
A short follow-up on gratitude. So when somebody I bump into asks me, how are you today? I say, I'm grateful.
Yay.
And say why I'm grateful, and I might follow it up. What are you grateful for today?
Oh, I love that. Then you become a messenger of high vibes.
Yes. That's great. Let's see, is there anything else?
Well, I am grateful for having had the opportunity to sit with all of you, and thank you for the love you brought to this experience.
Yes, and one last chat. Carolyn says, oh my, Suzanne, so much of what you have put out lately feels like they're especially for me as I'm working through the passing of the OOML.
Love of my life.
Love
wow.
of my life. Thank you.
That is hard. Okay. Yeah, that is hard, but know that you're not alone and seek support and share with others in groups like this. It makes all the difference in the world. Then one of the most helpful things is when and as you're ready, find some way to be of service to others. That's, just to get your focus off of your own pain. Feel it, process it, but when you can start helping others in any way at all, and get out of the house, especially if you can do that, that'll help a lot.
Okay, we're just about out of time, but I want to thank you, Suzanne. This has been so wonderful, and the dynamic and the energy and the love that I think we have all felt from you and from your work and from your guides
They
it's
just said
really,
you to say to all of you, you are so very loved.
you
It
are so
really
very
can't be,
loved.
it can't be any other way because we are love in expression.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
thank you all for attending. We'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.